And welcome to the latest story of success. We've got 3 of our 30 under 30, the next generation winners with us today, Ross, Olivia and Jordan. If I can just ask them to introduce themselves a little bit. I'll start with you, Jordan.
So my name is Jordan Webster. I'm a key account manager at Green Tech Limited. We supply landscaping, construction and forestry materials. I worked for the company 7.5 years. I look after 20 accounts, so 20 of our key customers up and down the UK, stretching from spends from £10,000 to £300,000 on an annual basis.
Great, thank you, Olivia.
So I'm Olivia Avenger from Benger Landscaping. I'm a commercial contracts manager. So I run sort of house building sites to big commercial landscaping projects. We go up to Bristol, sort of cover the whole of the southwest, really, down to Cornwall. And I'm beginning to sort of oversee the commercial department as a whole.
Fantastic, thank you very much. And Ross?
Hi, I'm Ross from Conquest Creative Spaces, and we design and build lots of high-end residential gardens, mainly in Sussex, but also around South and London. We're regular exhibitors at the shows every year. Here busy between running the design studio here, where we have ops, and running the teams that we have locally and into London.
Great, thank you. So one of the things I wanted to talk a little bit about today was young people in industry. Firstly, how you all got into the industry, but also some of the challenges you might have faced because of your age as well. Jordan, did you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I can do. Well, horticulture kind of found me, really. I was working for Cafe Nero's before working at Green Tech, and I just kind of applied for a job, not got any history or background within the industry, and just kind of fit straight in really to the mould at Green Tech. I feel as if customers like Olivia and Ross, really easy to get on with in our industry. I think kind of down to earth people. I mean, at Green Tech it's all about relationship building, so that comes into play quite well. That's it really.
Did you encounter any challenges at all, or did you find that you gradually made your way up through to your role now quite easily?
Challenges, yes. Big thing is obviously dealing with problems in sales, kind of confront them head first and just deal with them as quick as possible, as smooth as possible. Other challenges, really satisfying customers. No really other challenge. I started with about 500 accounts, you see, and that's dwindled down over time to about 20.
Thank you very much. How about you, Olivia? How did you first get into the industry and what challenges did you face?
Well, I've sort of got it in the family. So Tony Benger's my dad. Although it wasn't the career I was actually sort of expecting, really. It's always obviously been in my family. I was working in the nursery in my summer holidays, so I've sort of grown up with it. And it sort of came about, I was almost a guinea pig actually, because I didn't necessarily actually know much about landscaping. So they thought, we'll see how she gets on. We'll see if someone can manage contracts that, you know, and they can learn as they go along. And that's exactly what I've done, really. You learn so much just going out site, being with the guys. And even though I've not necessarily done it on the ground so much, I've learned, you know, whilst running these projects, and just working as a team with the guys is just great. And I've picked up so much from doing it over the years.
Fantastic. How about you, Ross, owning your own company?
I just pretty much started since I left school, and just sort of one man in a van, and sort of made lots of mistakes, and just kept pushing myself, really. And we got to where we are now. I think the biggest thing for me when I was younger, especially, was you're not a businessman, and me being a landscaper through and through, no one takes you to business school. And I think that's the hardest thing running a company, is knowing how to run a company. And I think particularly when I was younger, being quite fresh-faced with clients, you know, it's about trust, it's about budgets, knowing your self-worth. And I think, you know, even down to having the right financing for the equipment and stuff. It's all stuff, you know, a young lad of me, when I was I went straight into landscaping at when I left school at 16. And then I set up the business when I was 18. You absolutely know nothing about business. So you can imagine the mistakes that I still made into my early 20s with regarding everything from vehicles to, you know, how to run processes properly, how to manage people. So I think for me, that was one of the hardest things when I was younger is learning how to do business properly.
How did you overcome, I suppose, the perception from clients? Age can be a bit of a barrier in terms of trust. How did you overcome that? Yeah,
I think as well, it's about knowing your self-worth and confidence in what you're doing. And I think if I can see how easy the process is now, if I compare it to sort of 10, 12, 13 years ago, you know, clients are excited about your vision. They're excited about, you know, they can see your portfolio of work, and I think that makes the difference. So when you're younger, you've got a lot to prove, and you've got to get a few jobs behind your belt before you even really know what you're doing.
Was there ever a struggle in terms of thinking, oh, I'll lower my price point to get customers in through the door?
No, I think that's the key to business as well, is knowing what to charge. And I think especially being so young coming into the industry, you don't even know what unit rates are or meterage prices or what you should be charging properly per day, let alone knowing what your overheads cost and analysing your business in that way. So probably was just a little bit at the time, especially when I was 17, 18, just ignorant of costs. But you see it now, even in the industry of established companies that are undercharging themselves. They're not doing themselves any favours. So yeah, it's definitely a learning process there.
So you've all had quite different routes into the industry and different reasons for joining, but how can we get more young people to look to join? What do you think might be some of the barriers that prevent young people coming into the industry? Jordan?
It's a difficult one, really. I think Barley do a great job in terms of promoting, as well as Pro Landscaper. But I think landscaping industry is an industry that needs a lot of drive and a lot of passion. I think typically a lot of kind of bottom end landscapers just probably do it because there's nothing else for them to do. And I think we need to kind of promote that as a bit of more of a skilled job. And I know obviously there's loads going on within the government and Barley to try and achieve that. But one thing I constantly get asked by my customers is, do you know of any contracts managers? Do you know of any estimators, good quality ones in certain regions? And the simple answer to that is no. It's either the contracts managers or the estimators, the directors of other businesses, the owners of that business. They've been with that business for a number of years and very, very settled. So I think the gap is probably the contracts managers and the estimators. Say, for example, Olivia, you know, it's a family-run business. You're now trained to be a contracts manager. It's very unlikely that you'll go anywhere. I mean, you might say something different, but it's very unlikely you'll go anywhere else. Yeah, so it's a very, very tough one. It's something that obviously Pro Landscape, every single event we do, the question comes apparent, and it's, yeah, there's no short-term answer to it, I don't think, rather than trying to find people with a lot of drive and passion to succeed in our industry, really.
Do you think it's to do with perception of the industry? Possibly,
yeah. I think the building trade are probably similar to us as well. Although there'll be more courses at colleges for builders and bricklayers. Myself, I haven't gone down that route, so I don't know what courses there are at colleges. I know there's select 2 or 3 up and down the country, but yeah, it is a difficult one. Like I said, I don't think it's an overnight kind of solution. I think it's going to take a long time. But there will always be people flooding in through the industry through family or Recently, there's quite a lot of people that are coming from the building trade that have got a skill in estimating, for example, and then kind of like tailor-making their kind of work to the landscaping sector, which I don't think is that hard. And you know, figures and profits, etc., are all very similar within estimating. It's just learning the products and learning the skills of the lads on the ground.
What do you think, Olivia?
Yeah, we've had, it's been great actually, the number of apprentices we've had. Sort of the local colleges are great, and we've had loads of apprentices, and they're great for us. They can learn on the ground, on the tools, and there's lots of scope for them to go up through the business and can become contracts managers. So that's really nice for us that they're not sort of stuck at that level, and you know, there's big future and potential for them, which is really nice. But as I say, I think it's just sort of encouraging the apprentices and the young people to get into the industry is really important. Yeah, I love it. It's great. Like you say, Jordan, I'm not going anywhere.
What do you think companies can do, I suppose, to retain those young people who come in? So there's a lot of young people flooding into the industry, but what can companies do to ensure that they retain those young people and train them appropriately, Olivia?
Yeah, I think, like I say, for us, it's like important to show that there is scope to go further. It's not just, I think we do a lot of training, and it's sort of teaching them and showing them the passion, learning what they can be good at. And just, I think once they gain all those skills, you know, that's when they begin to really enjoy it. And as I say, they can go up, do other things in the company, contracts managing, and you know, sky's the limit. Do anything they want.
So career progression. What do you think?
I think that we've got a good tier system in place now, from sort of landscape assistant to apprentice to intermediate to lead, skilled lead. So there's this natural progression through the site teams, and then that can also filter into the operational side in the office, and from a creative point in the design studio. So I think it's quite important for companies to create an environment as well where the sense of morale is quite high, and you have a base of ops. We've seen massive improvements with staff retention. Now we've got workshop facilities, good welfare, training room, and part of the studio here, which everyone really enjoys. So you know, people want to be here in the mornings, and they want to be here after work as well to sign off, and that's quite a nice feeling for us as a company. So little things like that help as far as retention goes.
So I suppose that's improving the reputation of the companies in the industry and improving the perception as well to draw young people in. Yeah,
and you know, ultimately, you know, it is, as far as I know, you don't want to talk too much about the skills gap, but I think our industry is so diverse as a whole. There's not just a few things you can come into. Not only is it very multi-trade discipline, you know, we've got very strong carpentry guys, we've got very strong masonry guys, but also from a creative point of view in the studio, with how much you can do from a design. You've got contracts, ops, you've got surveying. There's so many different parts of the landscaping industry, and I think that's what creates such an excitement, because it's not just about being a landscaper anymore. I certainly don't think it is. So that's what should draw people in.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point. It's such a diverse industry. So other than the skills gap then, what do you all see as the challenges the industry is facing? I mean, COVID is obviously a massive one to talk about. How has that impacted you personally in your role, and how do you see it impacting the industry in the future? Jordan?
In relation to COVID, I think quite fortunate. I class myself as very fortunate that we're in an industry that's kind of battled through and kept on going through the whole pandemic. You know, I hear some horrible stories about people still being on furlough and twiddling their thumbs at home, and I wouldn't like to be in that position. So we've thrived under COVID. I think that's down to a lot of jobs that, you know, were due to commence or already started, and then jobs from a financial point had to finish. We will see in the next year or two whether that's going to slow down during the last 12 months of, it's going to have a knock-on effect. I think challenges in our industry, I think product availability. We're experiencing problems with timber at the moment. I think timber is a big problem up and down the country in different sectors, fencing, etc. Plant stock, we don't supply obviously plants, but we supply everything apart from the plants, and we always have conversations with contractors, where you get your plants from, what's the availability like, and I think that's been quite tough at the moment. Whether that's due to a lot of imports is yet to be seen, really. And I think climate as well. I think climate's quite a big one for the future, and that could have a little bit of a challenge within our industry. We're having wetter winters and drier summers, and green tech, which we try and be innovative, so thinking of different solutions, what we're going to do when our planting season gets narrowed down to 3 months opposed to 5 months, what we're going to do when we're having 30 degrees heat all through summer, sorry. Yeah, I think climate's going to be a bit of a challenge one moving forward in the next 10-15 years.
Do you think the industry is already starting to tackle that, or are we quite slow in our approach to tackling that challenge?
I think it's something that we've experienced before, so I think we'll probably learn each day as it comes. We personally, through the summertime, we've trying to come up with ideas. We already have got a few products where we can kind of sustain plant growth and keep water retention within newly planted areas. Sorry, what was the question again?
Just whether the industry is facing those, handling those challenges, sorry, and preparing itself to. Yeah, like I said, we're kind of in enchanted waters, really. We've not really experienced these climates before, but I think, reading the news and everything, it is going to change the climate in the next 10-15 years, and I think jobs will have to change and contracts will have to change in terms of how they approach jobs, when they start jobs, when they finish jobs. We always find a rush at the start of the planting season and the end of the planting season. So typically it'll be in November time, everyone will think, right, all the bare roots getting lifted, let's smash it out and get it sorted as soon as possible. Equally, March time, which is now, it tends to be November and March, our busiest times, because you're either starting and getting the jobs done as quick as possible, or it's last minute rush jobs. So whether that becomes December and February, I don't know, but again, that going on product availability as well, it's pretty tough to plan when everyone's finishing late jobs in March time, when it's typically at the end of the season and products are harder to come by because you've been selling them for the last 5 months. Yeah, absolutely. Olivia, has your experience with COVID been similar, and are you facing the same challenges Jordan's mentioned in terms of availability and climate?
Yeah, so I think we've been really lucky as an industry. Initially at the beginning, of course, with the first lockdown, we did struggle a bit, but in terms of maintenance and things, you're quite safe carrying on. I think the building sites and house builders have bounced back really well, and now seeming as busy as ever. Obviously, you've got all the things in place for COVID, but I think they're coping really well with it. And yeah, in terms of trees and plants, I think there's a huge shortage everywhere. Importing is a problem. Importing tree, we're struggling massively with tree supply, and I think getting British grown trees is really important now. So trying to encourage that is good, I think.
How do you see COVID impacting the industry going forward? I mean, they're experiencing quite a big boom at the moment, but that may not be the case for commercial landscapers. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the house builders we work for, I've been so surprised how busy it is and how well everyone has bounced back. And I'd hope that it's going to continue like that. I think it's looking pretty positive, really.
That's pretty good to hear. How about you, Ross?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. This is a point about climate, because that really does affect. We always have like a seasonal rush. You know, if it's not the Christmas rush, it's then the spring rush, and then it's the summer rush. Oh, quick, it's autumn. You know, we want to enjoy the rest of the. You know, there's always this demand with clients, even commercially, to be done for certain key points, and the tree lifting season is one of the biggest, and that adds to the residential pressure of design and build contracts, because they're always phased in the sense we've got to get trees in by a certain time, and the demand of the supply coming in. So I think it does fall back on how innovative the products are available on the market to cope with like aftercare packages or the maintenance of a well-designed scheme, really. And I think that's what we're seeing a lot more of nowadays. There's a lot more focus on the aftercare, and there's a lot more focus early on how to look after these gardens, especially with big plant spends, because, you know, a lot of these clients are investing hundreds of thousands of pounds on trees and plants. They don't want them to have a snap freak bit of weather and them all die, especially commercially. So there's an enormous amount of pressure on whoever's supplying them and whoever's installing them. They don't have losses, and you look at the season now. We're having like -2 to -5 cold snaps, and then it's getting up to almost 20 degrees in the day. So it's it's quite an early spring at the moment, isn't it, for some in the country? So, but yeah, as far as COVID goes, I mean, we're like everyone else. It's sort of booming at the moment, isn't it? With this slight fear that there's this delayed recession in a year, but hopefully we can stay on this positive journey that we're all on at the moment. But I mean, as a whole, our industry, it couldn't be more positive, could it? You know, everyone's been stuck staring at their outdoor spaces. They're thinking about garden rooms. They're thinking about transitions. So you know, finally, our industry's getting a bit of attention.
Yeah, completely agree. It does seem to be really strong at the moment. I don't think I've heard anyone say it's not buoyant. Jordan, has there been a slowdown at all in terms of commercial landscapers and orders?
No. Like I said, it's we're kind of thriving through COVID. We've had a massive boom in the last 12 months. It's just been relentless, really, in the office. I think we've got like 22 sales guys, I think, and I can probably vouch for every single one of them that they've not had a quiet moment in the last, since they all came back anyway from furlough, to be furlough people during COVID. But yeah, it's been crazy. I think the winter period obviously is a busier time for us, and I think with the government funding a lot of money for I can't remember the figure. I think it's 50 million trees in the next 2-3 years or something like that. You know, it is going to be busy. You know, and people are going to want it to buy plant support, etc. for that. So yeah, it's busier than ever, really. We're smashing it.
Fantastic. And obviously one of the big news, I suppose, from this year in terms of COVID was Chelsea being delayed to September. Ross, what are your thoughts on that, and how will it impact the show?
Yeah, I think to be fair, it's with the momentum of this year already. It's almost is a quiet relief from a few of us, because it almost gives us a bit of a break coming into what would be an incredibly busy spring season. But traditionally, Chelsea's always been set up for the May growing season, and it is quite difficult to get a lot of these plants ready in time. So there's an enormous amount of pressure on the contract growers to have them ready and in flower and a certain size. So I'm looking at it in a positive angle. I think there's a lot more stock availability in the summertime. There's going to be a lot more on the ground. So I know some contractors, some designers are not happy about it. Some contract growers are not happy about it. But I can see with most of the gardens nowadays are quite naturalistic gardens. I think that the palette is quite easy to adapt. So like we've had to get through the last year or two with this COVID, I think we've just got to tweak and adapt and make do, but it's going to be a different show. You know, September with the heat, it's not like there's not other flower shows at that time, but I'm just excited that, you know, it can still go ahead because it is the flagship RHS show, and just get back to a sense of normality again. Yeah,
whatever that normality may be.
yeah.
We've had a question from one of the viewers, which is how much benefit in terms of attention and recognition did your 30 Under 30 awards bring you? Ross, did you want to start?
Yeah, I think it was always a nice connection with pro landscape for me personally. So it was really nice to be recognised. Benefit and recognition. I mean, I guess we're doing a panel right now, so so yeah, I think that, you know, we always regularly do stuff with you guys at Pro Landscaper. So so yeah, that's recognition itself.
How about you, Olivia?
Yeah, there's lots of people had sort of congratulating myself and phoning up, so it was really good to hear that people had seen it, and great to be recognised. There's a couple of other guys at the company, Dan Estimating and George, who's in our maintenance team, and they got recognised well for it as well. So it's really nice for customers to see as well.
Brilliant, that's great to hear. How about you, Jordan?
Yeah, similar to Ross and Olivia, really. I mean, it's good PR for our company's quite good at PR and getting it out in the press and advertising it that way. It was about 3 years ago for me, to be fair, so it's quite, I had to think about it before I came on. But no, I still have, like on my LinkedIn, for example, I've still got my profile picture and holding the 30 Under 30 award. So I think, yeah, it's Ross gone. Yeah, I think it's good recognition, really. Like I said, with PR and promoting it that way, it's good.
Yeah, it's really great to hear. It's beneficial for us to have that question on here, actually. So how about your future goals and ambitions? Jordan?
Well, we've just been bought out, so yeah, so a company called Origin Enterprises just bought us out, so they said in the next 12 months everything is just going to be pretty similar. However, the potential for growth moving forward, it's kind of very open. So yeah, let's see what the future holds, really.
I always think green tech seem really good at having young people coming through as well.
Yeah, we try and, you know, get young people on board, enthusiastic, like I said before, got a lot of drive and passion, and mold them to the industry and mold them to the way that green tech work. And I think that's very important, really.
Yeah, absolutely. How about you, Olivia? I mean, that's a big thing to happen for green tech. How about your role?
Yeah, no, I would love to see our well, the commercial department in especially, I'd love to see that grow and have more teams on the ground. We really like to focus on quality within commercial landscaping. It's such a busy trade, and you've got all these last minute deadlines, but we really focus on delivering good quality landscaping in commercial. And I'd love to get more and more team leaders coming up through within the company, more contracts managers, and we've got plenty coming through the pipeline, so it's really nice to see. And I think the other domestic and maintenance departments are also really busy, so it's nice to see sort of all elements growing within the company.
So it's really plans for growth then?
Yeah.
How about you, Ross? Future goals and ambitions?
I never really try and be too over ambitious. Especially the last 2 or 3 years, I've tried to focus more on making the company a bit more sustainable and not grow too quick. And I think that seems to have been a good momentum moving forward, because we have steadily grown and got bigger, and in the right way. And you know, it's just nice to facilitate certain size projects in-house, and not bite off more than you can chew, because we have an enormous amount of work that comes in, and learning to say no is a good thing I've learned over the years.
That's a really interesting point. We also had a question for you, Ross, from one of the watchers as well. How difficult is it to balance the amount of permanent staff in the business versus the people that are drafted into the specialist tasks on a short-term basis? So I suppose permanent staff versus subcontractors. Yeah,
I think with, for instance, we often draft in specialists for the exhibitions, it's normally, for the exhibitions, it's quite easy because it's an exciting process. It's a well thought out, well planned process. But for instance, you could do a large contract, even residentially, and you might need 12 guys doing some planting or something, a tree planting. And, you know, as a company, you can't, once that contract ends, you can't just sustain another 12 guys or split on different size projects. So that can be quite challenging. And I think that's what, sort of going back to my point I was making about making it sustainable, is working out your market locally to you as a hub and working out what you can do as specialist jobs or bigger jobs, and how you can program that in. I think what's key for us as a company is, from an operational point of view, there's only so many gardens you can build a year, and how many people do you need in the office to efficiently run those teams? So because we get you know, we're fortunate we can work with a string of different designers as well as our own stuff in Sussex, and you've really got to be careful what you pick and choose, and if you're doing the wrong jobs for 1 quarter of the year, it can create absolute misery in the firm, and morale can get low, and then it becomes about staff retention. So at the moment, staff retention has been great, and lots of subcontractors want to work with us. Yeah, I think that's what helps. If you're getting a reputation internally within your own company that people are getting fed up, then other subcontractors are not going to want to work with you either.
Yeah, good answer. We also have a question which is a really interesting one. What excites you most about the industry moving forward? Could be quite a tough one. How about you, Jordan?
Supplying high-profile jobs, really. I think there's a number of jobs up and down the country that we're involved in at the moment, or potentially going to be involved in. I think I always get a bit of sense of joy and pride when you supply a job and it's very high profile, and you go and see that job and think, you know, it might not seem like a lot to other people in terms of supplying the soil, but yeah, that excites me moving forward, really, supplying some high profile jobs,
which hopefully there'll be a lot more of going forward.
Hopefully, yes.
How about you, Olivia?
It'd be nice to sort of work with a bigger range of customers, and just have people realizing sort of how important it is to have good quality landscaping commercially. I think it's often very last minute with the last trade and gets overlooked, and cheapest must be fine, yeah. But we'd love to do more sort of big commercial projects as well as just house builders. They're really sort of good to get your teeth into, and they're great for the guys. They love running them. They can almost run it on the ground. It's not so much in the office needing sort of day-to-day scheduling. So yeah, that'd be good to get our teeth into some nice big projects.
Great, so again, very project led. How about you, Ross?
Sorry, is this more about our ambitions of what we want to do?
It can be industry based or personal based.
I think that's a good question, really. I think at the moment we're really focusing on the skills gap and the training issue. We're doing a lot of work with the APL, trying to get a better structure to what's going on. I think we've now ended up doing a lot of in-house training for our guys trying to move them forward. I think the general frustration at the moment with me is they're not, unlike, let's say, plumbers or bricklayers, they're not getting landscapers ready to complete a job from start to finish. For instance, if I put that into perspective from a plumber, if a qualified plumber, qualified gas engineer will know how to fit a boiler from start to finish. These landscapers that are coming out of college, they're being taught token tasks, this tick boxing era that we've fallen into for years. So I think for me, I want to focus a lot on this process over the next year and try and help move the industry forward a little bit, as far as teaching some of these young landscapers how exciting and diverse our industry is, without just falling flat on their face with incompetence, really, because you know, some of these landscapers are having to go on 10-year journeys before they're feeling confident enough to complete a scheme to a high standard, and it needs to be quicker than that. So
the training aspects, including that, closing that skills gap is what excites you the most.
Yeah.
Actually, one of the questions a little earlier on, which we did touch on a bit, was how do we change the public perception of landscaping that is just people digging and laying paving to the various roles that are available, and I suppose training is a key part of that.
Yeah, absolutely, because a lot of landscapers, let's say, are coming into the industry, just don't think they're good enough, and then they give up because they see all these beautiful pictures and these beautiful images, and they say, how the hell do I do that? You know, it's great for in some respects for companies like us, because you sort of stay in a certain, I don't know, place, I guess. So it's sweet because we get lots of other landscapers, even locally, that ask lots of advice and ask questions, and we often invite them down here and we show them our processes, and a lot of them it comes down to skill base, or they're missing certain steps, yeah, I think that doesn't seem to be, it just seems to be these glossy images with no question on how to do it, and a lot of young landscapers are ballsy enough to do it, but it's at the risk of clients' budgets and a risk of jobs, because we do see stuff go wrong, which you often see on socials as well. And some of that is, you know, some landscapers that are having a go but not quite know what they're doing. So I think that does need addressing.
Yeah, so would you say the same thing, Olivia?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of we experience a lot of young guys that are really interested in the sort of groundwork side of it, the hard landscaping side of it. So it's nice when you get people that are really appreciative of the horticultural side of it, and the plants. I personally love watching all the Alan Titchmarsh on TV. Last night, busy watching it. But yeah, I think that's really nice for people. It inspires them to want to do it themselves. Sometimes it looks a lot easier, doesn't it, on TV? They miss out all the hard work bits. But no, I think it'd be great to get people more involved and upskilling and training all these young people.
Fantastic. Jordan, did you want to make any comments on that?
We've covered everything, really. Yeah, I think the training is key, obviously, to get people involved and entice them into the industry. Yeah, just with your training, Ross, you do that all in house, or is it
mixtures and both? You've got great companies like the Landscape Academy, Mark and Holly at Urban. They're doing a fantastic job of what they're doing, but there is a lot of like national training centres that are being set up at the moment up and down the country in a similar style. So I think things are definitely going to change. You know, Barley have got to go landscape as well. There is also you've got, I think Bowls and Wire created their own academy or something like that. So again, it's a process that a lot of landscaping companies are forced to have to do internally, and then it becomes a bigger thing. So but it's interesting, you look at the new programs that are out now. Your Garden Made Perfect, that's had some great response, hasn't it? Really good for the industry. Finally, they're discussing real budgets, but it has gone back to this sort of classic TV thing or classic BBC thing, where the landscapers are these mystery people, and they're hidden in blurry, you know, on the TV. It's just the garden appears. For
£500.
Well, unfortunately, the other ones like Love Your Garden, they're some of the worst, aren't they? They're industry damaging. But this new one, which I thought was interesting, is being received really well. but the landscapers are all mysterious. So again, it keeps this mystery going on how these things are actually built.
So the recognition side maybe doesn't promote landscaping enough.
Yeah, which I think it's something that we've always had to deal with. I think Mark Gregory's done some amazing momentum over the years trying to break this barrier down, but and he's done wonders at the RHS shows, particularly for that. But that's something I think we're always going to have to face as far as recognition goes. And it's, to be honest, I'm not really fussed about the kudos of it, but it's clients' perspective and perception of landscapers and us as a trade. And I think until you know, a lot of our clients, which are great, they understand how multi-trade it is, but there is a lot of people that just think landscapers is the grubby gardener, and you know, it's like we're talking about how diverse it is. It's so much more than that.
So if we could improve people's knowledge of what landscapers do, we can improve the perception of it.
Absolutely.
Well, unfortunately, we are out of time. So thank you so much to Jordan, Olivia and Ross for taking the time to speak to us today. Really appreciate it. If you have any further questions, you can leave them on the Facebook page or pop them across to us a little bit later on. But thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Guys, cheerio.
Bye-bye.